Hi guys, I'm going to take you through two of my favourite and easiest ways of creating a Tortie nail art design. Firstly, let me show you my top tip on how to care for your detail paint and keep it lasting as fresh as possible. So as you can see here, I am not going to actually take the inner seal off. I'm just going to cut a hole in the centre. Now by doing this, you're going to make sure that all that paint stays in that centre instead of getting messy around the rim. So now onto the design. I'm going to take my Tortie detail paint and my large flat gel brush, and I'm going to paint a thin even layer over the nail. A top tip when applying your detail paints as full coverage, make sure that you work the paint into the bristles of the brush first just to get that really even coat. Then cure for 60 seconds. Now for this first design, I'm going to be using a foil, so I'm going to use my Get Tacky full coverage. This does also come in a detail pot as well for smaller or more intricate design. I'm going to apply this all over the nail and then cure for 60 seconds. Now when it comes to foils, you will usually find that it has one shiny side and one matte side. The matte side is the one that you want to make sure is placed down onto the nail. I like to make sure that my design is where I want it, and then I'll firmly press down the centre of the nail before working out to each side wall and also around the cuticle area. Now on this pop I am using my finger. If you are working on a client, you can also use a silicone tool. That is really good for getting in those hard to reach areas. Make sure you're really thorough with this step, as you don't want any creases in the foil which could transfer onto the nail. You want to use a firm pressure and really focus on the edges where you will be peeling the foil away from. Now that I'm happy with how that's looking, I'm literally going to whip my foil off in one quick movement, leaving behind an already gorgeous Tortie design. However, as you can see where I have used the pop around the sort of raised area around the cuticle, I did have some small creases. So this is where we can focus on touch-ups. Firstly, I'm going to seal that foil in and also create that layered look by adding one more thin layer of Tortie detail paint. Now I'm actually going to leave that wet whilst I take a little bit of black gel polish, and then using my liner brush, I'm going to fill in the gaps where the foil hasn't stuck. This isn't an essential step, but I feel it just gives that little bit more dimension to the Tortie, and as I say, fills in any gaps where the foil may have missed. Cure this in your lamp for 60 seconds before finishing off with your super shine top coat. This is probably my favourite way of doing Tortie, as it's super quick, it keeps the product really thin and looks flawless every single time. I've cured my top coat for 60 seconds and this is the finished design. Now if you're someone that doesn't like using foils, you can also achieve this very same look by just using the gels. So again, I'm going to take my Tortie and paint a thin even layer across the whole nail. The only difference here is where I would cure for 60 seconds in the last video, I'm actually going to take a little bit more product of my Tortie and I'm going to work that into the wet layer, giving it a little bit of dimension. Now make sure that you do not use too much product in this, because you can run the risk of the product not curing. It just needs to be a little bit heavier in places to create that dimension. Now there's no real direction for this, I kind of just splodge it on as I go, working my paint in to wherever I feel needs it. Once I'm happy, I'm then going to cure that for 60 seconds. Now it's time to start layering. I'm going to take my Tortie again and place a thin even layer over what I have just done. The Tortie is obviously going to add a little bit more depth, making your overall design darker. If you wish to keep it lighter, you could just opt for a blooming gel. But again, I'm going to leave that layer wet and then take my black gel polish and basically do the same movement as I did with my Tortie, taking random splodges and working them all over the nail until I'm happy with the design. Again, for this part, you can add as little or as much as you want, depending on how dark you want your Tortie to look. Cure this for 60 seconds, and as you can see, I do then go in with one final thin layer of Tortie just to bring it all together. I feel like by doing this, it just softens the black edges, and then I'm going to cure again for 60 seconds. Now, as you can see, the design is a little bit lumpy bumpy, so I'm going to take my clear pure foundation and encapsulate everything, giving it a really nice smooth even surface. You can also use rubber base for this. I just like to make sure that that everything is even before turning my client's hand upside down to make sure that all of that gel is pulled down in towards the apex and it gives a really nice smooth finish. And then take a lint-free wipe soaked with IPA and just remove that tacky layer before then going in with my file and buffer, making sure that the surface is nice and smooth. Once everything is refined, just take your IPA soaked lint-free wipe again to remove all the dust and debris. And as you can see, this looks absolutely gorgeous matte already. But for me personally, the design really comes to life as soon as you add your top coat. So add a thin and even layer of top coat and then cure for 60 seconds. Tortie is one of those designs that comes around every single year, so knowing a few ways of how to create it is an essential, whether you're looking for something quick and easy like a foil or something intricate where you're hand painting. Nail techs and clients will always be obsessed with Tortie.